Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the RDA Central West Business Leaders Breakfast. And I'm really excited that you've been able to join us because in the hot seat with me this morning is Mr. Bruce King, the CEO of the Regional Investment Corporation. Bruce, welcome to breakfast.
Thanks very much, Sam. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm up and about for this morning's chat. I think it's going to be a cracker of a chat. Bruce, you've got a long history in agri-finance and investment banking. But I guess, can you tell our viewers and our listeners on the podcast a little bit about what led you to become the inaugural CEO of the Regional Investment Corporation?
Thanks, Sam. Look, it really, if it all boils down to it, I really think it comes back to being really passionate about a couple of things. One of those is a passion for agriculture. I grew up on a farm in Central Queensland, and combining that with passion for markets. Finance has always been something that's been interesting to me, and if I go through a journey of time spent university, then all the way up to working for an agri-bank on an international footprint, as well as time spent in markets on the grain trading side of things, they all culminated and came back to hit home with helping farmers to prepare for manage through drought. Way back when I was first leaving school, my father said to me, "It's time for you to go out and get some real world experience and make sure you've also got some education behind you." At that period of time in the late 80s, early 90s, drought, high interest rates were a couple of really big factors. And that's, really feel like that's just come full circle for me now. I'm back helping farmers to prepare for, manage through drought and manage high interest rates through the role that the RIC has.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably a beautiful segue because this morning we're joining you from the RIC office here in Orange. But Bruce, can you tell us a little bit for our viewers, a little bit more about the role of the RIC and why it was established?
Yeah, I think, look, from my perspective, one of the things that's really important about the RIC is that we're here to not just help people get through the current drought. It's really about setting them up and allowing them to manage their processes and be really prepared for the next drought. We know that this isn't going to be the last one. So how can we help them set up to become more financially resilient and financially sustainable? And the way that we do that is through providing some concessional loans across a number of different areas, and doing it in a nationally consistent framework. And that's the other thing that's really important here, is making sure that the process that we use is the same no matter whether you're a cane grower up in far north Queensland or whether you're growing wine grapes down in the lower part of WA. It's really important that we're using the same process and giving access to that federal funding from the government, and we're really proud to deliver that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, how does the RIC differ from a traditional lender?
Well, as I mentioned, concessional rates. So we've certainly got a lower interest rate, and the first thought might be, well, how's that possible, and why is that? How does that fit with the commercial banks? And we see it as being a really important partnership that we've got with those banks. We work very closely with all of the major agri lenders to make sure that we're supporting some of their customers to return back to operational profitability and make sure that they're building that financial resilience through to their balance sheet. How's that possible? It really comes back to thinking about, well, who's our shareholder? And our shareholder are the taxpayers. So in terms of a net return to our shareholder, our taxpayer, the benefits are not just financial. It's not just the return that they get from interest on the loan. It's also about making sure that we've introduced sustainable measures for the farmers that are out there, that productivity is improved, that we've put growth into regional areas and regional communities, because we know that building a stronger regional Australia is one of our focuses, and by being able to do that through improved profitability on farm, improved employment on farm, improved opportunities, trade and market access, these are the kinds of things that will really help to ensure that there's sustainability in the future. And that's the non-financial returns that the government's really excited to see.
And exactly, you pretty well took my next question right out of my mouth, but that's right, it's about giving confidence to farm businesses and then the flow and benefit that brings to the regional communities, because they're key planks and key pillars of those communities that they're based. Now, Bruce, luckily the drought conditions have started to ease in many parts of regional Australia. But have you seen that change where the demand for RIC services has come from and the type of requests that are coming through your doors at the RIC?
Absolutely. Look, if we go back a little over 12 months, an extended period of drought, we'd certainly seen a significant amount of demand for our loans. At that period, at that time we had a lot of people that were feeding cattle, a lot of people that had failed crops, and they were looking to make sure that they could shore up their balance sheet. So the peak of our demand was actually in September last year when our zero interest loan program closed. Since that period, certainly we've seen a lower level of demand, but it's important to remember that there are still quite a number of areas, both on the East Coast and the West Coast, that are still in drought. And so our focus now is how do we make sure that our products are available to them, making sure that they've got access to this type of funding, because again, as you said, building that strength and resilience in regional communities is really important. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see people leaving the regions, and by making sure that our loans are here and available, that's what's keeping some of these smaller communities and regional communities going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's a nice dovetail into my next question, because I believe the mandate of RIC was expanded recently, and I believe you've got a new offering, the Agri-Starter Loan, which was one that caught my eye. Can you tell us and our viewers a little bit about that and how the early uptake of that offering has been?
Certainly. Look, the Agri-Starter Loan is something that we launched on the 1st of January. We've seen a lot of inquiry, a lot of interest in that product, and it's really around helping with farm succession and new entrants into agriculture. Now, we know that with land prices increasing in value at the moment, that it's really difficult if you're a young farmer or a new entrant into the region. It's really into agriculture, I should say. It's really different to get that equity behind you. So by using our products, we're allowing those entrants to tap in and maybe take a small piece. And I think it's one of the things that we've really seen is that rather than transition of a whole farm, we're seeing small parcels of farms transition to allow that building of equity and doing it through a partnership with a RIC loan and a commercial bank loan. It's pretty important to note that it is still a loan and we are still looking for that funding back. So we do need to make sure that there is some equity there to support the loan. But we're really confident that this is going to help to bring new entrants and help us to manage that succession process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an exciting new offering, and I will make sure we put the link up after this morning's chat for some of these loans and different offerings that we've been talking about this morning. Bruce, can you run us through just briefly some of those other key offerings that RIC have, like the farm investment loan and some of those other ones that might be of interest this morning? Absolutely.
So we've got a couple of core loan products. The drought loan, which I've already talked about to some extent. The farm investment loan, this is an interest-only loan for 5 years and then principal and interest over the second 5-year period, available for up to $2 million. Again, we do this in partnership with the commercial bank that you might already have or the commercial lend that you might already have. And so we're seeing that used for really around change of enterprise mix, targeting new markets. Again, with land prices increasing as much as they have, it's really important for people to be able to find the highest and best use out of that land and really to be able to build that productivity. And there's some of the key platforms that we're really excited about our loans offering that ability to do. If you've got a lower interest rate, you can focus on making those changes to your enterprise and hopefully reducing some of the risk along the way through the lower cost of finance. Finally, just a couple of other ones to touch on. Our AgBiz loan, which is centred around farm-related small businesses. So that's businesses that supply or mainly supply into agriculture. Again, that was something that was set up through the drought, really to help people manage through the drought. We recognise, or the federal government recognised, that in lots of small communities, when the drought hit as hard as it did, it meant that some of those small businesses were really struggling to survive, and this was some support that we were able to provide. Again, that's a loan of up to $500,000 to help them through that process.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially in our region here in the Central West. When the drought was biting as bad as it was in the back paddock, you were really feeling it on the main streets of the small towns across our region.
Yep.
And even in the larger centres like Orange, you could definitely see it flowing through. Now we're going to change pace and ask Bruce the Fast Five. Bruce, best local event or festival in the region?
Look, the Cumnock Long White Lunch for me is a fantastic event. It's a community event. It's set up to support the preschool out there at Cumnock, and I just think it's well attended, and that's absolutely one to join along and have a great day. Yeah, we'll make sure we put the details up for that one after this morning. Hidden talent or hobby? Look, I don't know if it's a hidden talent. I think the hidden talent here is probably recognising that I wasn't good enough. But if you go back a few years when I first left school, I spent a little bit of time riding bulls. Joining the rodeo side of things, and good fun.
Absolutely, I wouldn't have picked it, but I'm sure there's some good stories out of that one. Hidden gem of the Central West. So this could be a person, a place, a venue. So when you have visitors coming into our region, you'd love to show it off.
Look, we're part of a small community out there at Molong. We really enjoy it, and we've just had a new coffee shop open up in the region, Lime and Stone. So get along there and see fantastic coffee, good food, and some pretty good conversation. We're going to throw a second one in there though, just to on the community basis side of things. The bacon and egg rolls at the Molong Soccer Club for the kids on a Saturday morning. Fantastic.
Well, that's a couple of great plugs there, Bruce. Nice work. Career if you weren't a leader in agri-finance?
Look, if I wasn't in agri-finance, I think I'd be on a farm somewhere. It's definitely my passion and definitely something that I want to be a part of. I'd probably be a little bit more centred to the livestock industry, but really enjoy the mixed farming operations that are available and around here in the Central West.
Yeah, absolutely. And last one, favourite sporting code and team?
Absolutely an easy one for me, rugby and the Queensland Reds. We had a great win in the grand final on Saturday night, and very excited to see it happen.
Absolutely. So look, we'll go back to a little bit more about RIC and the role that you play, Bruce. Now, I know there's been some media attention kind of recently about some of the processing times for some of the loans, but can you tell our viewers a little bit about that? Because I think there'd been some massive uptick, I think, in the amount of interest and inquiries. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, our loan demand really peaked in September last year. So we were set up to handle between 300 and 500 loan applications in any one year. In September alone last year, we received 1,300 applications, over 700 of those in the last 4 days, of the month. What we've done to do that is to help us manage that is we've brought on a significant number of people. So we're running at about 119 people for the RIC at the moment, and by doing that, we've been able to refine some of our processes, get through that backlog. So we're now at as at the end of March, I think we're basically only 40% remaining of the backlog of loans, and we expect all of them to be decisioned by the 30th of June. It does mean that we're going to have some pressure now on our settlements piece, but again, we've got a plan in place. We've set ourselves up to be able to handle that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And to see that demand, I guess, back in September just shows that there's such interest in the services that the RIC are providing. Now, the RIC was one of the first agencies as part of the federal government's kind of decentralisation push. As the CEO, what benefits have you seen for your organisation being regionally based?
Look, there's a couple of really clear benefits, and we're running at about roughly 80% of our staff are based in either Orange or regional New South Wales, and so what we get is we get an immediate touch point. We've got people that are out in the community speaking directly to farmers and graziers. It's not that they're coming necessarily via an industry body or onto the streets of Canberra. We're really able to get that, we've got that sense of what's going on. We've got a proximity to it, which allows us to, be able to reflect that back up to government, but also take note of that as we're making our decisions and as we're pushing things through. We certainly, while we've had this big backlog and we know how important it is to clear those loans, it's something that we're really aware that this is of the impact that this is having on people out in regional communities.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think having those touch points into those regional communities must help with your decision-making process, but also as well for when applicants apply, understanding that your staff live and breathe regional New South Wales, regional Australia probably helps the process.
Yep.
Now, one of the other things that I wanted to touch on is leadership. Bruce, we're very grateful to have you on as a mentor for the RDA 10 for 10 program this year. But as a regional leader, I guess what did you learn about your leadership style through that challenging last 12 to 18 month period that we've been navigating?
Yeah, and look, it has been, one of the things that I'm really proud of for us as an organisation is the amount of growth that we've been able to sustain while COVID has had such a big impact. To grow from 18 people to nearly 119 people through that time frame is really significant. What has it meant for me? I think being able to have a presence and being able to find ways to connect with your teams, whether that be walking around the office, jumping on a Zoom call, making sure that you've got the connectivity happening, I think is really important. If you don't have that, it's just too easy for people to either be making decisions or making assumptions in a vacuum, and trying to keep people up to date. We don't necessarily have all the answers all the time, but being as transparent as you can, but building confidence through those responses, I think they're the kinds of things that really allow an organisation to thrive.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a really good point. I guess connectivity. Someone once told me it's connectivity, context, calmness. There was all these C's, but I think and confidence. That's a good one, because that confidence you give your staff space. That gives them confidence to kind of play their role.
Look, one of the I've just come back from Beef Australia up in Rockhampton. It's a week-long event. It's a huge event. Lots of people travelling to it. I could do nothing but applaud the committee that put that show on. To have the confidence late last year to say, we are going to do this, we're going to step ahead, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to book either the entertainment, we're going to book the stalls, we're going to make sure that we've got people coming to speak, and it was fantastic. And so again, like you said, just that confidence to move ahead with the decision.
Now, following on from talking about leadership and your style, mentors play a vital role for local business. But I guess as a leader in your own right, what's a previous piece of advice that you've received from a mentor of yours that stayed with you and held you in good stead for your professional journey?
Look, it comes down to making a decision. I think you've got to be able to make a decision and move on from that decision. To some extent, the biggest risk is not making a decision. And if you see, if I reflect back on times where things haven't gone as well as I would have liked them to have, it's usually been where I've delayed making a decision. And so, I would absolutely encourage people to do the research, and then using the information that you've got to hand, make your decision and move forward from it.
Yeah, that's it's actually, we've done quite a few of the business breakfasts, as you know, and that's been a bit of a common theme from local business owners as well, is if you're going to fail fast. Yep. So make a decision, back yourself in, but go quick. Now, we're coming towards the end of this morning's chat, Bruce. I really appreciate your time. I guess you've had a diverse experience. You were in New York, you've travelled through your professional career, but what were some of the reasons that attracted you to come back and bring your skill set to the Central West?
The biggest one for me was community. I grew up in a regional area. I did School of the Air, so I think for me to have done what I've done, get out of a regional centre, go and spend time in New York, huge opportunity, huge experience. But what I was really craving for me and for my family was to come back to somewhere where we felt connected to a community. And as I said, sort of agriculture, regional Australia has always been something that I've been pretty passionate about. And that stems from the amount of innovation and ingenuity that you see within those communities. If you leave kids, to have some time on their own, they've got to make their own way. With a young family, we were really excited to get out of the city, come back to a regional community, feel a part of something, and hopefully generate the same sort of life experience that both my wife and I had. We're now living on a farm just outside of Molong, not 15 k's from where she grew up. So it's just been a great opportunity for us to bring back into the community, and then also be a part of something.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring your skills, but invest yourself into your community, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Now, looking into the crystal ball, what's your forecast, I guess, for the RIC and I guess our region in the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I'm really excited about this region. Again, agriculture plays a really big role. We've seen that move to sort of that food to paddock to plate food sort of scene occurring around Orange. I'm really excited because what that means is that there's got to be a lot of innovation that's occurring. I think agriculture is poised for a step forward in terms of growth, mainly because people are realising that agriculture isn't just farming. There's IT involvement. There's there's data that needs to be understood. There's people using drones. All this excitement is happening around our space, and people are realising how what a practical contribution that makes to both the region and the country as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. I share your excitement. I think what you were talking about technology and the uptake of technology in ag is pretty exciting, and I think it's going to be essential if we're going to reach that $100 billion target by 2030 for the ag sector in Australia. So Bruce, just to finish up this morning, what's the easiest way for viewers and listeners to engage with you and your staff here at the RIC to learn more about the different offerings that we've discussed this morning?
Absolutely. The best way to do it is to jump onto our website, ric.gov.au. So it's ric.gov.au. Jump on there, take a look at the different loan products that we've got available. Reach out, there's a phone number there that you can get a hold of us as well. Happy to speak through and understand a little bit more about your business and how we can help to drive that productivity and innovation into the future.
Too easy, Bruce. Thank you so much for your time. We'll put those details up on the Facebook page after this morning's chat. But until next Friday, same time, everyone, hope you have a great day, a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sam.
Cheers, Bruce.
Very good.